I now call this regular meeting in Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Director Beck, would you please read the mission and vision statements?
Yes. The mission statement: the Davenport Community School District is dedicated to growing excellence in academics, the arts, and athletics for every child by ensuring the highest quality education in an environment shaped by our diverse community, preparing our students to be lifelong learners and productive citizens. Vision statement: education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Yeah. Director Kleindrome, would you please read the guiding principles?
Opportunity. We provide abundant opportunities to empower students to reach their full potential academically, creatively, and socially. Collaboration. We foster an environment that allows students, families, and community stakeholders to come together for the betterment of our students' education and future. Transparency. We share relevant and important information with our students, families, and community to maintain open and productive communication.
Thank you. Superintendent Schneckhoff, would you please read the goals?
Brenda, thank you. We're going to go with Goal 1 and Goal 4 to enhance student learning, and 4, foster the innovative use of finances, facilities, and staff.
Thank you. I just wanted to note for the record that Director Hayes will not be here tonight. She's not feeling well. And we'll move on to presentations. I will turn it over to Superintendent Schneckhoff.
We have a very special presentation I'm very excited to hear about and see and share with the community the work that's been done. So, Mr. Driscoll, would you please introduce the special guest that we have here tonight?
Thank you, Superintendent Schneckhoff. And I too am so excited to introduce this group and hear about their travels, their adventures, and their experiences. And I can take such little credit for this. It's like introducing Caitlin Clark and acting like because I'm from Iowa, I had something to do with it. so yes, I am assigned to the West region, but I'm excited to introduce Mr. Greg Smith, our instructor from DCSD, and I'm going to turn it over to him and let him introduce his team and take it from here.
I'll introduce our team. So I'm Greg Smith, teacher at West. I've got Lillian Schaefer, Daryl Johnson. These are students that went, along with Mariana Lee and Camden Kilker. They weren't able to be here tonight. My daughter Nadia Smith, Vera Smith, my wife Alicia, and then Tim Schaefer also went as a parent, and then Joshua Gao. He is the gentleman that we worked with from Fishers of Men. And so we can go to the, so I can do this here. All right. So Fishers of Men was founded by Joshua Gao in 1994. It's a nonprofit headquartered actually just down the street at the old Wayne Montgomery building of the center. Joshua has established schools and medical clinics, orphanages that provide for homeless and needy children, and then there's 19 water wells that are throughout Kenya. And so we went to a town called Mwamba, or village, and we worked on building a water filtration system for that village. And so we're going to talk a little bit about our experience, and so I may have some students that chime in here as well. So one of the things we had to do in this project is we had to work with adding no additional power to the system. So there was a 22-foot tower, so we used gravity to feed our system. And we had to work with local materials, so we couldn't import anything. And so that was the biggest hurdle that we had to overcome. So in 2020, myself and a student, Brady O'Neill, traveled to Kenya to really get some details of the project that we had been working on for several years. it's a little different to go over and communicating back and forth is a little harder. When you're on the ground, you can actually see a lot more. And so that's what we did in 2020. So Brady O'Neill's right here in that picture. So Daryl, would you like to talk about the slow sand biochar filter?
So we used a slow sand biochar filter as the solution we came up with. The everything would be gravity fed into the slow sand filter, and then using the sand that we washed, the bacteria would be killed by the good bacteria.
All right, thank you. So we made a scale model in the classroom. We built the first prototype in the spring of last year, and then we stopped for the summer, and then we came back at the beginning of this past school year and rebuilt it. So we learned that we needed to really wash all the material very good because the fine sediments became a problem that clogged our filter in that first prototype, and so we had to rebuild it. And so I know that Lily spent some time digging out some muck from one of the filters in the spring when we realized that that was one of the issues we had. So Daryl, you want to talk about the building?
So the building was a design made by 3 students, me, Camden, and Eldred. We used information provided by Joshua Gao to design a blueprint to house the water filter, and we also included a section for the teachers and staff to walk there.
So this is the building in progress being built. So Duro's design went over and his team's design went over probably the end of September, and probably within a week they were breaking ground and building the building, so that when we went over in January, the building was ready to go. So when we arrived, this is kind of what the building looked like on the inside. So they had the tanks, they had the sand, the gravel, and so then we kind of spent some time washing that material, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to point out how Prototype 1 and Prototype 2 kind of came together. So I'd like to thank Kent Poston for the use of a trailer so we could get water from the Mississippi. We were able to use that for several months for that. Blaze Restoration provided a pump to pump the water out of the Mississippi. Obviously, Iowa American Water helped us out. Wakefield Biochar helped us with the donation of biochar for that. And so the students contacted these companies and made contact with them, and they sent us a number of bags of biochar to make that work. King's Material in Davenport allowed us to go out multiple times and get different rock and sand for our project. And then the Mississippi River Distilling Company provided the tanks that we used for our filter. So here we have a video that we're going to show, and Lily, if you'd talk about that process, I'll bring that video up.
Yay, it's warm.
Okay, so during this video you can see all of us trying to conserve the water while we're washing the sand. It's really important to get all the dust particles and everything out of the sand, because eventually over time when the water is running through the sand, it will get all of the dust collected in it and then clog up our filter even more. So before we could even build the filter, we had to clean all of the materials.
So one of the first things that we did, Lily was in charge of quality control back here when we did the Prototype 2. And so one of the first things I had her do was check the water, or whether the sand in the water, and I said, is this good? And she said, no, we need to spend some time cleaning it. So it took a little longer than I think had expected. It took us about 3 days to wash all the material, but we had to fill a 2,000-liter tank with sand, gravel, and rock. So this is our building that was designed, and so they had a little dedication ceremony, and so it talks a little bit about the partnership that we had, and then who did the work. And so this is our team. While we were there, I spent a little bit of time teaching robotics and STEM to the teachers. I was hoping to spend a little bit more time doing that with the students, but obviously the main project that we worked on was the water filtration system. And so my goal was that we'd be ready to go, get things going, and again, you make a plan, and like any good plan, it doesn't go as you hope. And so we spent some time teaching the teachers some Lego robotics, and our goal is to work with them over the next months to incorporate that into their classroom. And then I had 2 young teachers that got to spend some time in the classroom that taught for several days, and so they can talk a little bit about their experience.
Hi, I'm Vera. I helped start to teach how to play violin over in Kenya. I've been playing violin since 4th grade, so that was something I could teach. We started teaching the basics of how to play. Unfortunately, we're not able to get an instrument before we left, which was kind of sad, but still working on that. I still get to keep in contact with my students in Kenya to help teach them as I learn how to play.
So I taught art. I'm Nadia Smith, and then I also taught math, but mostly taught art 1st through 6th grade, and then I also got named by my students Kenny, which means light.
So the impact of this project was about 22,000 villagers are going to be able to access this water filter. We took 4 students over, and then we were there for about 2.5 weeks. But the interesting thing is that everybody went over and everybody had a role, and everybody went over and worked. Vera would teach in the classroom, and then she'd run over when she had a break and work on cleaning the rock and the sand. So students played with the kids. They got to go do some sports with them in the field, play volleyball. I'm trying to think what else they played, basketball. So again, everybody had a role. Even Tim had a role, and he helped a lot with the washing of sand and rock. My wife also as well. And so we got to do a lot of interesting things as far as working with the locals and teaching them how to work on this project so that they can maintain it and continue on. And then our robotics team is kind of, this project is a part of an extension of that. And so there's a video that, I don't know if we have time for that. Okay, so it's about 3 minutes long. And so it kind of goes over some of the stuff we did in our robotics program this year, as well as what we did on the water filtration system.
First devotion to bettering the lives of others has inspired our team to get more involved in our community. Here at Team 6317, we strive to uphold these important values and spread awareness about current obstacles faced locally and abroad. Following this year's kickoff event, 4 of our determined students were accompanied by one of our coaches to Kenya to implement our very own water filtration system. In doing so, we were able to provide clean water to over 22,000 people in rural Kenya. The water filtration system benefited not only the people of Kenya, but also the students in the class who had the opportunity to learn more about STEM through the project.
We partnered with many teams, including 5041, the Cybers, with whom we were able to donate NXTs to kids in Kenya. We also helped to mentor an FLL team and assisted in the start of teams 8024 and 9082. Throughout the year, we participated in many outreach events within our community. We also presented at elementary schools to educate them on STEM and FIRST. We were able to make hundreds of American flags as well as fix thousands of current ones. Along with this, we put up flags outside of houses on 5 different holidays. One of our bigger undertakings for the year was conducting a manufacturing summer camp. The manufacturing summer camp helped to educate middle schoolers on engineering and inspire them.
All right, we'd like to open up to any questions that you may have.
Director Potts.
What's the volume of water that you filter? I mean, in a given period of time.
The volume. So I think that we have a 4,500 liter tank. So we've got capacity to, I don't remember the math on what we had, but we got a calculation of how much water we could clean per day. And so although we have a tank that's 4,500 liters, I think we could do probably close to 6,000 to 8,000 liters of water per day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Director Beck.
I have 2 questions. Number 1, could you explain a little bit more about how the filter works? Like how many different layers of things that water has to go through to get to be clean? It's kind of hard to tell from looking at the tanks.
So there's 3 different materials in one in one filter. Fine sand, rough sand, and rough stone. The fine sand had to be washed really cleanly so that the bacteria would go through it, and the helpful bacteria would eat the harmful one. The stone would get rid of the larger debris, and the rough sand, the slightly smaller debris that the stones couldn't catch.
Thank you. That is super cool. And then my other question, actually, for both students, high school students here, had either of you ever been out of the country before? And what do you think, what did it mean to you to travel somewhere else that wasn't Davenport, Iowa?
I've been outside of the country before, but only just for like vacations. Nothing as big as this, nothing like going to Africa, and it was absolutely amazing to see the impact that this had on everybody there, not just the students of the school, but everybody that we talked to. All of them were very thankful for Pastor Joshua, especially. He's made such an impact in Kenya that it's just so cool to see everyone coming up and thanking him every time that we pass by a crowd of people.
So I haven't been outside of the country, but I was born in Nigeria, which is in Africa. So going back to Africa was really cool and really opened my eyes to like what problems you're facing.
Director Poston.
The water that you were treating, was this well water, river water, or
what was the source of the water that you were filtrating?
It was well water, but the wells were usually by like farmland where they would get contaminated by the animals and other insects and stuff. So we had to treat that kind of water.
So they were probably real shallow wells then?
No, they were really deep because they had the help of another company to drill the well.
The well is 465 feet. So we did it in 2010. It's not clean. And after they did the filtration, we did not know that the water had salt. It was salty. But after they did it, when they left, I got all the reports that the water was pure. It had no salt. The filtering, it was also removed the salt. So thank you, and Davenport School District for just allowing this to be able to go and help my people. That's my village where I was born.
Mr. Smith, how many students were involved back home here at West in this whole project, and how many students do you have involved in your program?
So the number of students, I'm not sure. We started this in 2017, so the number of students grows each year. We started the class, I think, with 12, and I think 9 of them we worked on the project for the semester. 4 of the students went over to Kenya with us. But I want to say that probably close to 100 students over the years have worked on this project in some way, shape, or form. As far as number of students in the program, probably about 100 as well.
Director Kleindrum.
Do you have plans for another type of project in another area, country?
So Pastor Josh and I actually just talked last week about kind of future plans, and so if we are allowed to do another project, we'd like to do something in 2024, probably the summer. So that's kind of our current plan, and so working on trying to recruit some students to be a part of that project is kind of the next step in our process. And so I want to say thank you because this is my 5th student-led project internationally. So this is my 3rd trip to Kenya. I took 2 trips to Germany in 2018. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with our students on real projects that not only impact them, but also impact the lives of others around the world.
What were the projects in Germany that you?
So the project that we worked on in Germany was with the youth exchange. So Kaiserslautern is a sister city for Davenport, and so Rachel Steiner or Mullins was, when she was working here, got in contact with us, and so we did that in 2018 and then 2019. And so we worked on some robotic stuff with a school in Germany.
To the 2 high school students, do you plan to do this in college? Are you both seniors? Do something like this in college, or once you get out of high school, continue this type of work? Or
I'm not sure if I'm going to go into engineering next year. I'm undecided, but I really want to do travel and do more life-changing projects like this for sure. This was amazing.
So I am going into engineering, and I've already talked to Pastor Joshua about continuing projects like this.
Director Poston.
Do you have a school in mind for engineering?
I plan to go to Iowa State.
Good choice. I have a grandson that's a freshman this year at Iowa State in engineering. So if you ever need any help with making any contacts or anything, be sure to let us know.
I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for the awesome work, and we appreciate you taking the photos and the video for us to see all that stuff. And keep up the good work and keep changing people's lives. That's phenomenal work you guys did. So you should be very proud of yourselves and your parents as well. So thank you all very, very much. We're gonna take a picture. Yeah. Thank you again for that awesome presentation. We will move on to recognitions. I will turn it back over to the superintendent.
Well, sticking with the theme of water, we are going to recognize two of our teachers tonight. They're being recognized by a local organization called River Action. And River Action, I think anybody from the Quad Cities knows what they do and what they're about. But River Action has a mission to protect and restore the Mississippi River, to foster economic activities and showcase the Mississippi River, and promote awareness about sustainable practices around the Mississippi River, and everyone around here knows that they have great impact. Two of our educators, one who was highlighted earlier during our presentation, are receiving Eddy Awards. And an Eddy Awards are those who act as an eddy, going against the current to accomplish excellence on the Mississippi River in art, design, revitalization, river activity, education, and stewardship. So tonight, we have Mr. Greg Smith and Miss Laura McCreary. So if you wouldn't mind, please coming up here. Laura McCreary is awarded the Award for Education, was the force behind the North High School Green Team hosting in February the Quad City Environmental Film Series film Youth Unstoppable at the North High Auditorium. Her students were charged with taking on the publicity, the emceeing, the writing and recording of a WVIK Riverway story, displays at the filming, and the recruiting and hosting of the reflection speaker following the film. In addition, the team has worked to plant the bioswale at the school, pick up litter and remove invasive species, planted native plants in school gardens, sold silicone straws, talked to local businesses about reducing single-use plastic products, and participated in tree planting, weeding, and wrapping with living lands and water. Wow. That is an absolute... that is just incredible to our area, and think about the generations that you've impacted. Our second teacher for tonight is Mr. Greg Smith. Greg Smith's Award for Design was the inspiring force behind a student-designed water filtration system. Not only was it designed and engineered to deliver clean drinking water to more than 22,000 people in Kenya, he, along with 4 students, delivered and installed the system in the village of Mumba. He was responsible for creating an ongoing partnership with the international nonprofit Fishers of Men Ministries, headquartered in Davenport, to accomplish this. Involved in product development was the idea, including design, engineering, sourcing, manufacturing, and testing, distribution, and beyond, and budgeting. Greg has a strategic plan, and it's called for doing things like this. He inspires youth to pursue science and design with hands-on experience and access to state-of-the-art technology and research. So it's with great pleasure that I bring these two wonderful Davenport educators before our school board to recognize them for the efforts above and beyond in providing wonderful experiences to our students and families, as you've seen tonight. So if you wouldn't mind, join me in giving these two educators a round of applause before we talk to them. So President Goza, with that being said, I turn it over to you for questions and comments.
Would you all like to say something before we get questions?
I just want to say I've taken action in my environmental science class for dual grad, but the work that I'm being recognized is for the Green Team, which is an extracurricular activity. And my students have really just taken the charge. They designed these shirts that kind of does our logo, that small actions matter, and we try to live that every day and just try to be environmental stewards. So I'm very proud of our students.
Well, until a few minutes ago, I didn't know exactly what I got the award for. I got an email a couple months ago that said you got an Eddy Award, and then I called them and I said, so what is this about? And so, again, I can't necessarily take the credit. Obviously, students did the work. I was just kind of the person behind the scenes, making sure that we were on track, getting stuff done. But again, it's the students that over the last 6 years that have worked on this project that have gotten us to the point where we are today. So.
Director Beck.
Ms. McCreary, I just want to say I'm super impressed that it's your extracurricular activity that you've got students so heavily involved in. Um, I don't know what you've done to encourage them to be so active, but thank you for doing that. And again, to Mr. Smith, thank you so much for the project you've done.
Thank you both for the tremendous work you're doing and getting our students involved and engaged with that stuff, because it's life-changing things that are affecting people daily. So thank you very, very much for that. And keep up the great work. All right, we'll move on to student board reports. Jackson, you're up.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have too much to talk about right now, so I will use this time to kind of let out my comments that I've had with the amazing presentation that we just had. I was not directly involved with the water project, but I was a very curious onlooker, and I cannot stress just how much the kids who worked on this, their dedication, their passion, their love for people, Mr. Smith's love for people, and the robotics team, especially Mr. Massey on the robotics team, their dedication to the students, to the people of Kenya, it is unwavered. It is beautiful. I could come up with about 100 words to describe it. I could not be more happy that they're getting the recognition that they deserve for this. I know many people who are very much kind of the people who they want to do this in the shadows and don't want to necessarily get recognition for the stuff that they do. They just merely like to do it, but this is something that goes way beyond that. So I'm glad to see that. And then the only other thing I wanted to say is I tend to look through the agendas before we start, and I had the unfortunate discovery of finding that my amazing Spanish for and intermediate Spanish teacher, Miss Burton over at West, is retiring. So I just wanted to kind of give her because she was absolutely amazing to have both as a teacher and a leader. She's just very fun to have conversations with, and she taught me not just Spanish, but she taught me how to learn Spanish, which has been very helpful in AP Spanish, which is about 7 levels above what the last class she taught me. So my hat's off to her and her retirement, and I hope everything goes well for her. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jackson. We always appreciate the student board reports. Board reports, are there any board reports? I attended the North High Musical Newsies 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Those kids did a phenomenal job. There was actually a gentleman there that was his 88th time seeing Newsies. He travels across the country watching all the Newsies musicals. and he said it was one of the best ones he's seen, from Broadway shows to high school to junior high. So those kids did an amazing job. Are there any other board reports? Director Klein Jerome.
I also attended Newsies. They did a phenomenal job. I have seen it as a Broadway show, and this was excellent. Also, I'd like to offer the board would like to offer the condolences to Julie Newman family. Julie was a school counselor at Williams who passed away on April 4th.
Any other board reports? Seeing none, we will move on to communications. Open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak, please fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The form is available in hard copy for in-person attendees or on the school board page of the district's website for those who want to participate virtually. Virtual participants must email their request to Brenda T. at tbrin@davenportschools.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president may set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or the community. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and home address prior to making remarks. We have 3 open forum requests tonight. We will start with Allison Newman. What's that? Oh, 2 minutes, sorry.
My name is Allison Newman, and I live at 1560 West 68th Street in Davenport. My son is in the ID program at Fillmore. He has significant learning and social delays compared to his peers. On March 7th, I received an email at 11 a.m. that we were going to be notified about changes to my son's special education services. I spent the rest of the day in a panic, and that afternoon my family was blindsided with a letter stating my son will have to attend a different school next year. In my opinion, the district did not handle the communication appropriately for this enormous change. We were relieved when we had received the boundary letter 3 weeks prior stating that we would continue to attend Fillmore. At the IEP meeting on February 10th, I asked the team if there would be any changes next year. We were relieved that they did not anticipate anything for my son's classroom. And then this letter shows up, an impersonal letter from the district, and no word from the school itself leaves a lot of questions from a parent. And who deals with these questions, who deals with these emotions? Unfairly, the school had to, even though this was not in their control. The letter stated that we can fill out the TO request, but in actuality, we can't. Because of his disability, he is no longer able to attend his school. At January 23rd meeting, Director Beck and Director Poston expressed concerns about the SESI program. They mentioned they were concerned about going down the road that previously got our district in trouble. After receiving this letter, I must say I am also concerned. In the district's 2018 Phase 2 audit for systemic noncompliance in special education, we were cited for housing special education separately and creating siloing. According to the state, particular attention should be paid to distinguishing placement and services needed for support. It is hard to believe that our district would resort back to practices prior to our citation, but it appears by removing services from our home school, we may be. This change will lead to significant loss of learning for my autistic son. It could take months for him to learn routines, make relationships with teachers and paras, and most importantly, connections with his gen ed peers. Until that happens, his learning will suffer. I asked, where is the equity for the ID students, the low socioeconomic students for our school? They're stakeholders, and I'm concerned they're not as valued as much as others. I am concerned.
Thank you. Up next, we have Daniel Foley.
Okay. Hello, my name's Daniel Foley. I'm a math teacher at Smart Intermediate, working on the new HMH curriculum, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. We've kind of had to build a bridge to this new curriculum because it has more rigor in it, right? And it also covers different things we haven't covered in the past, like geometry, for example. So we've done a lot of things to like kind of onboard our students onto this new curriculum, okay? And which means we've done some things outside of the curriculum. And I don't have, in next year, other schools are going to be coming online with this curriculum, right? They're going to have to reinvent all that. I don't have a good way of sharing all that knowledge with them. I mean, we need a way to have oversight so we can share knowledge between buildings. So like, in addition, like we also teach to the test still, so everything we've designed is still teaching to the new HMH test. But our own scope and sequence has priority lessons in it, and which means we skip some of the non-priority lessons, right? But those are still in the HMH test, which means we've had to rewrite the test, right? To take out the problems that we skipped. All these other schools are gonna have to reinvent that wheel next year if we don't have a way of sharing all the work we've done this year, okay? And this speaks to a bigger issue where I understand the need for oversight. If like teachers were able to share every single worksheet they ever created and started using that, then you're starting to drift away from the curriculum, right? So I understand the need for oversight. I'm not asking for just, chaos, out here, but we need some information sharing because if I were to leave, all this knowledge I have about the new curriculum is gonna walk out the door with me right now. It's not documented anywhere. They might, at best, they'd have a Google Drive where I saved all my stuff. And that's what they'd have to work with. So like, and that was what I walked into when I started Smart, because the entire math department left the year before I started there. And all 3 of the math teachers at Smart were new that year. We had nobody. We had like our TLCS innovator to help us a bit, but I know what that's like, and so I'm being a bit selfish here. As a second-year teacher, I would also benefit from being able to see lessons created by more experienced teachers in a way that makes sense, So that's all I wanted to say is that there has been a lot of work done to get our students up to speed for this new curriculum, and I think other schools will benefit from all we've learned from it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Brandy Allen. It had a different name at the top, so I didn't want to call you by the wrong last name.
Well, I'm not here to talk about geometry or building walls in Africa, but you probably know why I'm here. Brandy Allen, 22010 80th Avenue in Walcott. So the last time that I came to the board regarding Montessori education, I did go over my 2 minutes, but I've timed it tonight. I wasn't able to finish my speech, so I emailed the last few lines to everyone on the board. Then I followed up with more information, including videos, links to literature, and websites regarding Montessori in the public schools. I hope that you've had a chance to look at some of it. Tonight, I just want to reiterate what I was trying to say before. Last time, I had hoped to convey my passion for Montessori education and my own personal investment in Montessori teaching. I had encouraged the board to schedule a visit with either of our local Montessori schools. I think that you need to see for yourself what makes it different and why I believe it is so magical. As far as I'm aware, nobody has yet to schedule a visit with Quad City Montessori, but there is still time. As people involved in the education field, I understand that your resolve to find the absolute best programs for Davenport students drives your decision making. You also want to make our district an exceptional place for those families who are choosing to entrust us with their children. I know that you've taken this position as a board member because you truly want to do what is best for kids. You are in a position to make impactful changes for our district. Whether it is the members of the board or the cabinet or the administration, your advocacy for students, along with your direction for administrators, will affect students, for better or worse, for generations to come. I believe that Montessori is the best that any program can possibly offer, and I truly hope that your educational curiosity will lead you to see for yourself with your own eyes why I believe that we should be offering Montessori's pedagogy to those students and families that we value so much. I hope that you will continue with me on my journey and bring Montessori programming to our preschools and to grade levels beyond. I hope to be, at a minimum, the spark, but I would also love to lead the charge entirely for our district in adopting Montessori philosophy. After completing my certification, my leave of absence is over, and I already have 2 potential career paths that I would love to pursue, but my ultimate wish is to have the privilege of bringing Montessori to the Davenport district so that those children who need it the most can benefit from her wonderful principles. Please consider bringing Montessori programming into our district. If you would reach out with your questions, and don't forget to schedule a visit at Quad City Montessori. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that participated in open forum tonight. The board appreciates hearing from the community. We will move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Superintendent report.
None at this time.
Committee reports. Do you have any updates on the data wall?
We have a meeting Monday.
Okay. Finance committee. None there. LZAC. Well, we just kind of went over that. The committee as a whole. Nothing with longer range. Policy committee.
We meet on Wednesday.
Perfect. All right, we will move on to items requiring action. May I have a motion on subject 10.01, district-wide HVAC controls upgrade?
Mr. President,
Director Potts.
I move the board approve the contract with Train for the district-wide controls upgrade in the amount of $4,493,000.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. May I have a motion on subject 10.02, replacement of the pool pack and RTUs at North?
Mr. President,
Director Poston.
move the board approve the contract with Train to replace the pool pack and rooftop units at North YMCA for the amount of $2,784,000.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. May I have a motion on subject 10.03, approval of board secretary compensation?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move the board approve the board secretary's compensation package as previously presented to the board and as discussed in closed session. The pay raise goes into effect March 1st, 2023, and it is for 16 months.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just had a quick question. So you're approving this today, but it goes into effect a month ago? It says March 1st. I'm just confused on how that works, with given that there's a month between.
I got it. It's retro.
It's retro? Okay.
Retro back.
That's fair. Thanks.
No problem. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We will move on to discussion items. The first subject for discussion is 11.01 Central High School Walk-in Freezer Project. I'll turn it over to Superintendent. Josh.
So we've done a little research and looking at storage in Central High School because it's a feeder type kitchen area, so they feed out to the elementary schools, and they've been pretty short on storage space in that location in freezer areas for a long time. We're also purchasing larger quantities. I know we talked about a freezer at Central Bakery, but at some of the high schools. Sometimes we have some shortages as well. In this case, we can purchase more items from the federal commodity buying program and store them at the high school. It's much easier for us to find dry storage areas than freezer storage areas. So we would like to just propose adding some more storage for that building. They've never had it before, but with the ups and downs of our supply chain, we just wanted to increase that supply of the buildings. For example, like today, we didn't get a delivery where we normally would have. Had we had that extra storage space, we wouldn't be so tight on our food. But we planned ahead. We knew that now. So in some instances, we don't know when there's going to be a truck not stopping or something like that. So that's kind of what this is about.
Director Plandro.
I see it's paid out of Pebble and then reimbursed later through ESSER. Does it not go directly to be paid out of the food service department? I mean, they have their own set aside budget.
Some of their stuff is budgeted through that, but the building stuff itself, I believe, is budgeted through Pebble. And we have a dollar amount that's been established through the years for F&S to utilize out of the Pebble budget.
Okay, thank you.
Director Peck.
Two questions. One kind of piggybacks on that. Can you explain how this is an ESSER can be reimbursed from ESSER?
It has to do with storage of food and the supply chain issues caused and afterwards with COVID.
Oh, okay. So increasing your amount of storage to deal with supply. Okay. And then the other question is, do we have the space already in the electrical access and all the other things that are required for this, or is that going to involve more work?
They've looked into it, and as far as I can tell, and as far as they've informed me, nothing's to be added. It should already be there. We should be able to hook it right up. We're using the space that's already there also. So there's a little spot that's got some old lockers, I believe, that aren't being used in a spot that can be used for more dry storage.
All right, I have a question. So you're looking at this for Central, and if we're storing stuff at the other high schools, is there a potential of doing this for the other high schools? And the reason I ask that is if you buy more than one unit, you would probably get a better deal.
I talked to the F&S staff about it. It doesn't seem to be quite as big as an issue as it is at Central.
Okay.
It's just the size of the storage space they have there and the number of feeder buildings they have. It ends up being a little tighter. So I don't want to say it's not a possibility, but it hasn't been brought to my attention that it's an issue at this point.
Would you be able to look into that and give me an answer back on that?
Not a
if we're
problem.
going to do it, we might as well do it for all three instead of, and then next month you say, well, you know what, we should do it for these ones. And if we can buy multiple, we should be able to get a better deal on it.
Not a problem.
And that way we can store more stuff if we need to, so we don't have to worry about that.
Not a problem.
Director Beck.
Sorry, that reminded me of one other question. You mentioned that part of the issue is the number of elementary schools that they're supplying the food for. Knowing that we're closing Washington, that building, are building closures going to affect this capacity in any way? Or is it essentially the same because we have the same number of students?
Yep. The number of meals stays the same, but it'll affect it a little bit, but the number of meals is going to be the same as what we're planning for.
Okay.
Good question.
Do any board members need any further information to vote on this at the next regular meeting? I just need that additional information. Josh, if you can make that happen for me, it'd be great.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to discussion. Subject 11.02, Riverbend Transit. I'll turn it back over to Superintendent.
Josh. So we've been using Riverbend Transit for our transportation needs for quite a few years now, and I don't know if you guys recall the presentation or the conversation we had last year about how they've been doing, and so far we've been very satisfied with what they've been doing with our district, and I really don't get any phone calls in regards to that contract. I really just don't. And as far as I'm concerned, when we can do that, and continue a contract like that, I feel like it's doing us good, and we can do that. It's a local company that provides a lot of people in need with transportation options. They've proposed to me a 3%, a 2.5%, and a 2.5% year-over-year increase with their contract, and in today's times, those percentages are pretty low. So we've discussed and talked about it a little bit, and I thought it was best we just extend their contract another 3 years to match what we're doing with Alltown. Any questions around that?
Director Poston.
Yeah. If you take a look at the contract, Josh, there's a couple name changes that you'll have to make.
Okay.
One's on the chief operating officer and the other's on the board president.
I think we did change that. I bet you it just got the wrong document got through or something. So
Any other questions? With extending it for the 3 years, what are the proposed raises for each of the 3 years?
on the contract, the first year increase would be around $12,000. The next year around $10,000, and the following year around $11,000. So from year over year, a little over $10,000 a year of an increase.
Okay.
And of course, they're estimates. We don't know the number of exactly how many students will have to utilize these services because it's pretty specialized, but it gives us an idea.
Okay. And we use them because it's more of a specialized, because the new company Alltown can't facilitate those needs. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I truly feel like at this point it would be a good time for us to test the waters and see how they do with what we're already doing. And they're doing a good job, so I don't necessarily see like changing it up would help us.
Okay. Director Poston?
In some of the wording in the contract, it talks about summer school and then also, I believe, pre-K. So it looked to me like that would be on a as-needed basis. So that it's like so much a day that's added into. So that will be part of the contract along then.
You're absolutely correct. Yep, it's only as needed. Sometimes it's not. So.
Is there any additional? Oh, Jackson.
I'm just a little intrigued. Why 3 years as opposed to like 5 or 10 or even just 1?
In this case, I want to match up the contract with Alltown.
So will it change duration the next time you renew this, or is it always going to be 3 years?
Potentially. What it does help them do is plan for purchasing and procurement of buses and needs with contracts with bus drivers and things like that. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
We've had a little bit of issues with some bus companies, so you don't want to get in too deep too long.
But not this one.
Not this one. Any additional information board members need before the next meeting to vote on this? Thank you. Next subject for discussion is policies for board second discussion. I'll turn it over to Director Kleindrum.
This is the second discussion. Is there any questions about these policies? We've already seen them once. Okay, we're good.
Administrative reports, and don't say none at this time.
There will be one future date, but none at this time.
Perfect. Board request. All right, board reflections. We will start with. Actually, we'll start over with Jackson. We'll let you go first.
Why, thank you. I don't have too much to say other than that was easy. One of the quicker ones we've had in a while. I guess I'll just kind of reiterate my my comments on that amazing presentation we had. And I'll let Mr. Smith know tomorrow when I see him that it was so good you guys offered him a pay raise. I'm kidding.
Thank you. Director Gordon.
I was very impressed by the presentation from the West students who went to Kenya, and just a general reflection that I think it's really cool what awesome education our Davenport students get from activities outside of the classroom. So not just going to Kenya, but even that after school extracurricular stuff with Laura McCreary and just we tend to think of education as what happens in the classroom, but it happens in a lot of experiences too, and I think that tonight proves that.
Thank you, Director Potts.
Once again, my reflection would be on the Kenya project. You know, people can spend their whole lives and not impact individuals as much as the amount of time that those students spent in Kenya and the impact that they're having on 22,000 people's lives for the next umpteen years. I mean, that's an amazingly powerful, insightful, emotional thing for kids and for teachers. I mean, you know, most teachers never see the result of their product until they either read it in the newspaper, or 10 years, 20 years later, some kid shows up at their door and say, "Remember me? You made a difference." Well, these people made a difference in the short period of time that they were physically there. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Director Klein-Jerome.
I also agree with the Kenya project and the fact that, yes, these students that came to us got to go to Africa, but this has been an ongoing thing. So there are students who weren't going to get that opportunity, probably already graduated, but still they had a part in this, and that's pretty exciting. And the fact that we are taking time to recognize not only students, but teachers who have done great things on their own time as extracurriculars. That's what this district is about. We need to recognize students and staff that are doing great things.
Thank you, Director Beck.
Basically ditto what everybody else has just said. Fantastic stuff. We have amazing teachers, and I'm happy to see that we're able to recognize them so publicly. And then the things that students learn, not just in the classroom, but they're learning, even the students who didn't necessarily physically get to travel out of the country for the Kenya Water Project, they're learning, the students who participated in that over the many years are learning so many important skills like teamwork and critical thinking and problem solving. And so those are the kinds of things that we do here in Davenport, and that's fantastic.
Thank you, Director Poston.
Well, obviously, the recognition of our two teachers and the time and effort that they put in to these projects is so critical. And then the Kenya project, these kids that were involved with this are just way ahead of the game as far as being involved, being engaged. It'll affect them the rest of their life.
Thank you, Superintendent Schneckler.
I would agree with that and kind of take a little different angle. It was so excellent to see Tim and Mandy Schaefer here with their daughter, and Tim took the trip. And I think not only do our students get opportunities, but our parents get opportunities to see their children grow. And it was just a wonderful thing to sit and watch parents in the audience be so proud of their children. And that's a really cool thing for us as educators to see, because that's exactly the way we feel about their students when they're doing these wonderful things. And so those opportunities really, you can't unring that bell for that student or that family. And also Tim is a local business owner that hires graduates from Davenport West. He works with our students from Davenport West at Dale Service Center. He does a wonderful job with our students, and so he's a person that's always given back. And so it was just really cool to see that come full circle. So.
Thank you. I'll agree with everyone else. I think the recognitions were phenomenal, as well as the presentation. Davenport Schools, we have the best staff around. All staff, not just teachers, administrators, all staff, and the best students around. I would put our students and staff up against any district across the country, and we have some of the best and brightest, and we're producing a lot of awesome things. With that, Director Potts, I would entertain a motion to
Can I say
adjourn.
one other thing? I want to also point out, Laura is, she's one of our own. She graduated from Davenport North. She went to Fillmore. Their parents moved out of Davenport, but they continued to send their kids to Davenport schools. She graduated from Davenport schools. She's back teaching in Davenport schools. And I said that says a lot about who she is and also our district.
Director Klein-Jerome taught her.
Yeah.
Director Potts, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned.
And if everyone will just